This past week, a ton of automakers have started to produce their new EVs, one of those being Tesla and the Tesla Cybercab. And this is actually pretty big news because this Tesla Cybercab has no steering wheel, has no accelerator or brake pedal, and no side mirrors. This is a full-fledged robotaxi that Tesla plans on using, and it is now in production. Now, one of the bigger things, at least in its look, that is different from a lot of the engineering prototypes we saw the past year or so, is that it's now glossy. Now, the Cybercab, unlike your conventional vehicle out there, like my Rivian, for instance, it is using typically aluminum or steel panels on the outside that are then painted on. Well, then you have the Cybercab. Instead of aluminum or steel, it is using plastic, which I think is interesting. Now, it is a robo-taxi, and it is going to likely accumulate a lot of miles, be in a lot of different environments. Things will happen. You know, as with any car, dings, dents, scratches, it happens. Well, with plastic, that becomes a lot easier to produce and replace the panels, but also makes them a little bit more durable. Not to mention, the color is embedded in the plastic, this polyurethane piece. And so if this plastic piece were to be scratched or, you know, deformed or something, it is still going to be the same gold, shiny color. Maybe it won't have the same kind of sheen on it, but it'll be the same color. Unlike a painted car where if there's a scratch or something, you will then be able to show the metal piece underneath. So that is super cool. Now I gotta say, I'm really excited to see these on the roads. Now, most states have laws and cities or ordinances of sorts that prohibit vehicles from operating without a steering wheel or accelerator pedal or side mirrors. And this is why, right, Waymo is operating in a ton of cities, whether it's testing or actually having vehicles out there on the road, and they have all of this, right? You can't be in the driver's seat. And the same thing for Tesla, right? They're using the Model Y. They still have the steering wheel, the side mirrors, the accelerator pedal, even though no one is using them. And with a dedicated robotaxi, a vehicle that's built from the ground up to be an autonomous vehicle, you can kind of bypass some of these restrictions in some cities and states. Most notably your Texas, Austin, Texas, Las Vegas, Nevada. There are a few other cities. California has some weird, strict laws that maybe Tesla would have to go around. And so now I think the big part for not only Tesla, but all of these automakers out there is trying to convince and lobby the government to introduce some of these autonomous vehicle laws that allow these vehicles to not have a steering wheel, side mirrors, accelerator pedals. So it'll probably be a while until we start to see the robo-taxi everywhere, but in the cities where Tesla is currently doing Tesla unsupervised full self-driving robo-taxis, that being Houston, Dallas, and Austin, well, that is a place where the Cybercab can just be put just like that. Something else that's pretty cool, the Cybercab is not subjected to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration rules, which don't allow vehicles that don't meet all of their requirements for safety and features and things like this. Well, there's a cap at 2,500 units annually. And so this is why, like, vehicles like your Bugattis and some of your Lamborghini models, they don't actually meet, a lot of the hypercars don't meet all of the National Highway Traffic and Safety Administration rules. And they are safe, but because it is a two-seater sports car with a ton of horsepower and features, some things are removed, some things are added in which don't meet your typical criteria of a large passenger vehicle. And so this limits most automakers like this to only making 2,500 per year on top of exclusivity. But the Cybercab, they're going to want to make as many as possible. I should also mention that the Cybercab did technically start production in February, but that was not continuous production. This is like pre-production units on the same factory line. You're just trying to see how things are made, then you kind of slowly ramp up. Now we're in continuous production where we have multiple units on the line being made at one time, and things are continuing to roll. Of course, they'll work during a shift, but production isn't starting and stopping to see what needs to be improved and changed and done for the vehicle. They're going to be continuously producing this Cybercab, which is a pretty big distinction. It'll probably be a while until we start seeing, you know, in the thousands. Production's going to have a ramp, and again, they need to get through some legislative measures to ensure that the Cybercab can be everywhere, but they want to get to a point where they're likely making tens of thousands every single month, if not quarter. And so for this, they don't have to do that limit of 2,500, which is actually pretty cool. And that means that Tesla can continue to produce the Cybercab as much as they want. Now, if you're like me, you're probably wondering, okay, Isaiah, so these vehicles are being produced in Tesla's factory in Austin, Texas. How are they going to be moved from wherever they are to, service centers, or then to their lots for people to then clean and manage them? How are they going to be put out into the world and shipped? Now, Tesla is using full self-driving from the moment it comes off the production line to then move to a backlot to be transported. That will all be done autonomously, and Tesla's already been doing this with the Model Y and the Model 3, and really the S and X when they were in production in Fremont. And so now in Austin, Texas, and I believe they're doing with the Model Y and Cybertruck as well, but with Austin, Texas, the Cybercab, as soon as it's produced at the end of the line, FSD will activate and it will drive itself to a specific spot on the transportation backlot. From there, it is likely that they will be teleoperated with some sort of remote control or something like that. Also, the Cybercab will have steer-by-wire, but it'll likely be a position where Tesla's able to remove the plastic panel in front and then put on a steering wheel if they needed to manually move or, direct the vehicle. That is also another option, but it'll likely be teleoperated for most scenarios for it to be loaded onto transportation trucks and then move from service centers and some of these fleet parking lots for then FSD to activate as a robotaxi and then go out and pick up and drop off people. Still on the topic of full self-driving, but not the Cybercab specifically, Tesla says they have over 456,000 active monthly FSD subscribers. And you have to imagine, if you're buying a Tesla and you want FSD, you can't buy it outright anymore. You can't just buy it cash, which I think is ridiculous that we're moving towards this world of just subscriptions and everything is going to be subscription. That's just wrong. However, 450,000 people are subscribing to FSD every single month. And apparently they say that the fleet is averaging 28 million miles per day. And that's up 100%, double from just 3 months ago. So people are using FSD more and more. And we know that the FSD take rate as a whole is relatively low. If Tesla has 456,000 active monthly subscribers, I believe Tesla in their entire fleet has probably like 6 or 7, 8 million cars. And, 450,000 subscribers. Of course, some of those people in the fleet have FSD bought out entirely, but that is still a small amount of vehicles. I believe it was said like less than 15% of people who buy a Tesla opt in for full self-driving. They just want the complete package of a good, vehicle with great software and the infrastructure. But I think from now on, we can actually start to see this to grow. We will likely start to see some of the take rate for FSD increase as Tesla pushes it more and we start to see more of these robo-taxis out there on the road, particularly those Cybercabs. Tesla also did note that full self-driving version 15, which as they note will be needed for hardware for Teslas to be able to do unsupervised full self-driving, which is crazy. So it seems like that is something that is in the pipeline. But version 15 Tesla full self-driving will be capable on hardware 4 or AI 4 Teslas. And so that is good for those hardware 3 Teslas. If you have a hardware 3 Tesla, Tesla's going to be giving you a discount to be able to buy a Tesla, and then you'll have to subscribe to, full self-driving if you want some of those features. But they are going to be giving discounts to people who have hardware 3 Model 3s and Ys to be able to upgrade. Elon says that unsupervised full self-driving will likely come to customers in Q4 of this year, which likely means it'll come in Q4 of 2027, realistically. But that's what Elon says. The end of this year is also the same time that a lot of other automakers are looking to implement a lot of their robo-taxis or some of their point-to-point system. I think most notably, Rivian, in my case, will be looking to implement their point-to-point supervised kind of full self-driving like system later this year. Also, Waymo and Zoox and Lucid will also be, by the end of this year, implementing their newer hardware or finally implementing their robotaxis out on the road in fleets. But yeah, you won't be getting Tesla full self-driving. With 14, that's not available on hardware 3, or 15, which is unsupervised on your hardware 3 Model 3. And it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out because a lot of people paid for full self-driving outright. Elon has made plenty of claims. I mean, for years, over a decade at this point, saying that Teslas will be able to full self-drive unsupervised. In the next 2 years and 6 months, next year we're going to release this. And it just doesn't happen. And it's not like Elon was totally lying. I mean, he was lying in a sense, but like, of course, we're now at a point where Tesla has cybercabs. Of course, they had something in the view for Elon to say such a bold statement like this. Clearly, they saw that they have the technology, but the timeline kept getting pushed back. And if you bought a Tesla with the idea that you would be able to have it full self-drive on hardware 3 and unsupervised, and now it can't, that's kind of, that's not a good thing at all. Not to mention, right, there are a lot of people who weirdly, as soon as Elon was like, hey, we're gonna introduce hardware, we're gonna introduce Tesla full self-driving unsupervised, and it wasn't supervised or unsupervised at the time, it's just Tesla full self-driving. And a lot of people just bought cars. They bought like fleets of Model Ys. I know of people who have bought like 10 Model 3s, 20 Model Ys, thinking to themselves, yeah, I'm gonna use this as a robotaxi. I don't know how that's gonna work. It's gonna be interesting to see how the whole robotaxi thing plays out. I think from a business position, if I'm Tesla and I'm able to build the car myself, why sell the car to then, make a robotaxi? Why not cut out the middleman and just, do it yourself? At least that's the way I perceive it. Yeah, Tesla Cybercabs, no steering wheel, no accelerator pedal, no side mirrors. They are now a shiny gold in plastic. They are now being produced. They're driving themselves from the production line onto the outbound lot. They will be teleoperated to be moved around where they need to be, but it is likely very soon we will be able to see these on the road, and I am very excited. Will Marques Brownlee have to shave his head? I believe that was one of the bets. He said that if a Tesla will not be able to make a Tesla robotaxi, the Cybercab, I believe it was $35,000 by the end of 2026, $35,000 to customers without a steering wheel, without the mirrors and out the pedal. So Tesla already is producing it. They already got rid of the mirrors and the steering wheel and all that. They just now need to sell it to customers for $35,000. And then he will have to shave his head. This is Out of Spec Bits, and I'll see you guys in the next one.